What's up, everybody? Welcome into this Thursday edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Mike Renner, JP Acosta, going to be breaking down all the Week 14 matchups. Week 14 already. It is late in the season. Stretch run here. JP, though, this weekend, I am going to, just found out last night that I got approved for credentials for the number 1, number 2 matchup, Big Ten title game this weekend. Ooh. I am hyped. Last time I went, I had to sit through Michigan against Iowa, which was an absolute grind. One of the worst Big Ten title games, probably since whatever that Wisconsin, Nebraska one, whatever, way back when. But this one feels like it'll be a great one. But I do feel like it'll lose a little luster, knowing that it actually doesn't matter whatsoever. I feel like in the long run, this game.
Yeah, it feels like we're getting how they called number 1 versus number 2 regular season matchup, like the game of the century. Yeah. It feels like we're getting that, but also both these teams are going to make the playoff. It either way it goes, you could have Ohio State could punt on this game and be like, we don't care about it anyway. We'll make the playoffs. So it's just it loses a little bit of luster, but still all the prospects, all the talent on the field, it should make for a really awesome game.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm most excited about, is that there are copious amounts of NFL players, even on Indiana. I think people don't really appreciate the fact. I mean, everyone knows Fernando Mendoza, but they have 2 NFL wide receivers. They have a couple NFL offensive linemen. They got an NFL corner, maybe a couple along their defensive line as well. So they are a talented team, worthy of number 2 in the country. But I'm going to be watching Jeremiah Smith and Fernando Mendoza. Those are the guys. Those could be your number 1 overall picks the next 2 seasons. So very much looking forward to that. Let's get to the Cash App segment here, though. All season long, leading up to the playoffs, Cash App is sponsoring our locks. We'll track how we're doing each episode, with the winner being presented with the Cash App Locks trophy at the end of the season. Right? Last week, JP made a big move. 4-1 last week. I went 2-2. Kyle went 2-2. And we both were kind of at different points in that Broncos-Commanders game on Sunday night, hoping for stops. Not only because we wanted to get the pot out of the way, because it was midnight, and we're like, let's just get this game over, but also because I needed the under in regulation, didn't hit. You need the Broncos to cover 6.5 at the end, also didn't hit. We both very much upset with the Denver Broncos.
I can never bet on the Broncos. You can't say they're going to cover. You can't say they're going to blow a team out, because they never do. And sweating out that plus 6.5 as the game goes into overtime, I was like, come on, man. I can't do this anymore.
Just bet money line. Just Broncos money line. Whatever it is.
Exactly.
That's your best bet with the Broncos this year. We have producer Stryker, though, to join the show with a surprise for us. Stryker.
All right. So we got a quick update with Cash App. We have officially received the Cash App trophy.
Oh, look at that.
Uh-oh.
So you guys are competing for it now. We got the real deal.
That looks sick.
It is pretty big. It's the size bigger than my head.
What is that made out of? Is that real metal?
Yeah, it's like hard metal. It's heavy.
That thing's gonna look great on whatever's behind me here. There's
a lot more on the line.
I'm gonna get that trophy. We're gonna hold it up like we just won the Champions League.
Well, one thing's for certain: we can't let Kyle get it. And the good news is, Kyle's not super close to getting it right now. He's 14-23. So we'll make our picks throughout the show and recap them at the end. But let's start with what I would call the game of the weekend, the NFC North rivalry, Bears at Packers. Packers 6.5-point favorites. 44.5 points is the over-under. And I was talking with Kyle Long earlier this week, obviously, of Bears fame. And I was saying, I don't think I've been this excited for a Bears-Packers matchup, or that there's been one that had this much on the line since week 17 of 2013, 12 years ago. Now, 2 years ago, the Packers needed to beat the Bears week 18 to make the playoffs, but the Bears were out of it. That one didn't have the intrigue. The only intrigue was for the Bears was, what do we do with Justin Fields after this game? Can you play well enough? Because that was the year, remember, he had that stretch at the end where fans were like, hey, he's the guy. And a lot of people were upset when they traded him. I don't think they're upset now. But that was not a great game. Objectively, that wasn't a good Bears team. But that 2013 year was for a playoff spot. That was the Aaron Rodgers collarbone year. And then the last time these teams were both good teams was probably the NFC Championship in 2010. So it's been a while. Glad to have the rivalry back. How do we see this one playing out?
This game is going to be so cool. It's going to be such a fun game to see Ben Johnson go up against Jeff Hafley once again and kind of get a feel for how the Packers defense is going to defend this Bears offense that, like we've said all season, they are an explosive unit, but they're also incredibly volatile. That means if they're capable of putting up 30, 40 points, they're also capable of only putting up 10. That's sort of the volatility of their offense, the explosive passing. But I really think that this game is going to come down to how the Packers defend the run. And I think it's so fascinating how they defend the run because despite not having big guys, we've said this all season, they lack depth, they lack size on the interior. They win by slanting. They win by shooting gaps. They win by trying to cross linemen's face. But the Bears run zone, outside zone so well where they can kind of negate crossing the face by just reaching. They get reaches on every block. Joe Thuney has been incredible. Drew Dahlman has been awesome on those reach blocks. So I wonder if this is a game where Jeff Hafley blitzes the run on early downs. Do you see Edgerrin Cooper sort of filling hard? Do you see Isaiah McDuffie blitzing on early downs? Because I think the best way to defend those zone runs is to put someone in the zone where nobody's expecting it, where nobody on the offensive line is expecting it. That's how you're able to kind of throw little wrenches into the plan. Maybe use some run stunts. I think that'd be really important for this team. But their lack of size is going to mean guys like Nazir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson, Colby Wooden are going to have to play monster games against one of the best rushing units in the NFL.
Yeah, to put some numbers to how good this Bears running game has been, over the last 8 games, 179 rushing yards per game. That is 28 more than any other team in the NFL over that span, and second in EPA per rush behind only the Colts over that span. So it's been volume, it's been efficiency, and it's been the under center run game. They are the second highest yards per carry in the under center running game in the NFL so far this season. That's the matchup, truly, is how do the Packers have answers? Because you mentioned like slants versus stretch game, and you're really playing a dangerous game if you want to go that route. Because if you slant the right way, if you choose the right direction, chances are you're blowing up the play. Like stretch right, you slant right, or to the offense's right, you are getting out ahead of the gaps. You probably have like 3 guys in the backfield. But if you slant the opposite way, away from the stretch, that's when everyone's all discombobulated. Guys are 2-3 gaps over at that point, and that's when you get the freeways. So I'm very curious to see how they handle that because, as we saw last week, not everyone. It is a difficult task going up against this Bears running game right now, and I think that is ultimately what decides this game. The Packers stop it. I think they win. If they can't, I do not think that they come out victorious in this one.
I do want to shout out Evan Williams real quick, Packers safety. He's a monster defending the run. For a safety, he is so willing to be physical, and I think that's going to really help against these Bears receivers and kind of lay a hit on them early in the game. Really, really set the tone early. I think Evan Williams is a great run defender. He's having a Pro Bowl caliber season. But I also think if the Bears are going to want to win this game, I think it's going to have to come with Caleb Williams as a passer over the middle of the field. I think there have been a lot of inefficiencies with the passing game towards the outside edges of the field due to drops, due to Caleb Williams' inaccuracies. But he's really started hammering on the middle of the field passes. I think he's looked great on those dig routes, on some of the over routes. He's working high lows really well. It just comes down to the receivers kind of being a little more fine-tuned with their route running. So I wonder if this is a game where you start to see a little bit more of the middle of the field targets. If you start to see a little bit more of some of those daggers, some of those middle of the field digs, some of those are going to start to have to hit for this Bears offense in this game.
I do think, though, that's the one area where I feel good about the Packers is their coverage over the middle of the football field. It's like as you get closer to the sidelines, that's where it gets more worrisome. And that's why, the Cowboys were the ones that really hammered them because the Cowboys, Dak, like they can attack those edges of the football field with those receivers. So I do think that the Packers defense slows them down enough. And then on the flip side, I just don't see the Bears having what it takes to stop this Packers offense, especially given we probably get Jaden Reed back this week. We probably get Matthew Golden back this week. To see those guys to an offense that's already number one in terms of EPA per play in the NFL. Like this has been, Jordan Love has been cooking of late. Number one graded quarterback over the past 4 weeks, according to PFF. And they can't pressure opposing quarterbacks, the Bears. 29th in pressure rate. That's been the formula to stop the Packers offense. Well, there's two formulas. One is just like bait them into running all game long, which I think they've finally scrapped a little or enough in recent weeks. And the second is to get pressure on Jordan Love quickly with this offensive line that's been, just okay. It has not been great in terms of pass protection, and they've been banged up throughout the year. The Bears don't have the guys to do it. They just flat out don't have the guys that worry this Packers offensive line. So I think that's the matchup where I just don't see the Bears having answers. I think the Packers can have some answers in run defense against the Bears rushing offense. I don't think that the Bears have any answers for this Packers passing attack right now.
I'm curious how Dennis Allen calls this game, because now that you have Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon, I know a lot of Jalen Johnson got most of the attention, but Kyler Gordon coming back in nickel, huge for this team. He can play outside. They played him outside against the Eagles with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in the slot. They moved him to the slot. You're able to run a lot more stuff. You're able to run a lot more of your disguise coverages. There was one in the Eagles game where they motioned Dallas Goedert to the left, and then Kyler Gordon runs with him. But instead of it being man, they flip it into cover two. And I thought that was really cool. But like you said, the Bears are 29th in pressure rate. When you factor in blitzes, on all blitzes, the Bears are 31st in pressure rate. That's not great. Like, if you can't blitz and get home, but you also can't win with 4, there's really no way of beating this Packers team, because you can't blitz Jordan Love. He's been great against the blitz this season. And against the Lions, he was shredding man coverage. And I think the Bears pulled out a little bit more man coverage than I thought they would against the Eagles. But I feel like this game is going to have to come down to somebody on that Bears defensive line is going to have to make a play. Whether it be Montez Sweat, whether it be Austin Booker, you get if you can get Grady Jarrett going on the interior, somebody has got to make a play. Gervon Dexter Sr., somebody on the defensive line has to go make a play in this game.
I don't see it happening. I like the Packers. 6.5's a lot, though. I think it's going to end up around that area, so I wouldn't bet this, but I like the Packers to win.
I like the Packers. I also think that Micah Parsons against Theo Bennett or Ozzie Trapilo, like how does Ben Johnson scheme around that matchup? Because if Micah Parsons is getting pressure without Devontae Wyatt, I wonder who's going to be that next guy to step up. Of course, the Packers have very capable pass rushers, but it's not only getting pressure on Caleb Williams, you have to bring him to the ground. So I'm curious how they get pressure, but I'm going to go with the Packers in this one.
Both picking Packers. All right, we're going to take a quick break. After that, going to get to the rest of the slate.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
No, that is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount+.
Colts at Jags. Colts 1.5-point favorites. 47.5 is the over/under. When will they learn, JP? What year was it? When was the last time? What grade of school were you in the last time the Colts beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville?
So the last time the Colts beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville was 2014. I believe I was in like 9th grade, maybe 8th, 9th grade. Do you know who the starting quarterbacks were in that game?
Okay, 2014. It was probably Bortles, because that was his rookie year. Right. And then on the flip side, Colts, gosh, I mean, was it Andrew Luck?
It was Andrew Luck and Chad Henne.
Okay, Henne.
The leading rushers for both teams were Ahmad Bradshaw and Denard Robinson.
Oh, Denard.
That's how long it's been since the Colts beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville.
Oh.
And I think this game, I'm not going to say it's a must win for the Colts, given how they started the season, but man, you really, really need to win this one. And I think the biggest issue for this team right now is, one, Daniel Jones can't move. So with the run game becoming less efficient, with teams loading up on early downs to stop the run, you can't, with Daniel Jones's fractured fibula, you can't really run a lot of boot stuff that they did early in the season. You really can't get him on the RPOs and the read option stuff because he can't move. And that's where you're really starting to see some of the negative effects of this offense start to come to light. Daniel Jones is still Daniel Jones to an extent. I think that when you blitz him, he starts to get very panicky. And you saw that against the Texans. He went 2 for 11 when blitzed. So I think against this Jaguars team that is blitzed so well, that has played such good defense against the run this season, it's real worrisome for this Colts offense. It feels like they're coming in at a bad time.
Yeah, the Jags have allowed 3.5 yards per carry on under center runs. That's the fourth fewest, or have allowed the fourth fewest yards on such runs all season long. And that's the Colts' bread and butter. That is where they win as an offense. And this game, like a lot of games, but especially in the AFC, there's a lot of games that have massive playoff implications this week. This obviously being one of them. The Jaguars with a win go from 97% chance to make the playoffs if they win to 68% with a loss. The Colts with a win go from 79% chance to make the playoffs to 33% with a loss. So that is a massive, basically this is a must win for the Colts in terms of the swing. Now, it's not as big a swing as what we're going to see in the AFC North and the matchup atop there, but it's the second biggest swing all week in terms of playoff implications. Those numbers all according to PFF, but this basically going to decide how the AFC South plays out, in my opinion.
And I think the cool thing about this team, about this game, is there are so many like havoc guys on both sides of the ball for both teams. Dennis Gardeck has been one of my favorite like low-key Jaguars acquisitions of the year. He was somebody they signed in like July. Like he was sort of like an underrated signing. I thought at the time it'd be really cool, and he has been awesome. He's allowed the Jaguars to be versatile up front. He can rush the passer. He can play off the ball in space, and he allows them to be sort of, you know how Jeff Hafley likes to get into those over like 5-man fronts, 6-man fronts without losing coverage bodies. Dennis Gardeck is that guy. He's the chess piece, and he allows for Anthony Campanelli to be a little bit more versatile when it comes to pass rush, when it comes to blitzing. And there are just so many guys who can cause problems for this Jaguars defense. Josh Hines-Allen is playing at a really high level. You're getting great play from Devin Lloyd. I think when Jordan Lewis comes back, you're going to get a really nice trio of Buster Brown, Jordan Lewis, and Jarian Jones. But on the other side, you have so many just good role players in Josh Downs, Michael Pittman Jr., of course, Jonathan Taylor, but Alec Pierce is playing really well. So I think this game on that side of the ball is going to be really, really fun to watch. And then offensively for the Jaguars, Jakobi Meyers has been incredible since coming back or since coming to Jacksonville at the trade deadline. It just feels like there's like an adult in the room. We're like, okay, everybody's doing their own thing. Just know I will be open over the middle of the field and I will catch the ball. And now you can feel Trevor Lawrence's confidence rising over the middle of the field, hammering those speed outs that he was really good at early in his career. And all those things are starting to come back with a receiver that he knows can run the route to the right depth and will catch the ball. It's crazy what happens with the completion percentage and the success rate when you start to catch the ball. I believe Trevor Lawrence, since the trade deadline, he has been top 5 in success rate. So over that time, like he has been incredibly good. And I think that Liam Cohen is really starting to find his stride in the passing game. And it's sort of, again, it mixes with a Colts team coming in at a bad time without Sauce Gardner, without DeForest Buckner. There's a lot of questions right now for the Colts defense.
What is the future of this Jaguars wide receiver room? Because Myers came over and basically said to Brian Thomas Jr., like, this is, I'm wide receiver 1. Like that just is what it is. Brian Thomas Jr. comes back this past week. It's 3 targets, 2 catches, 28 yards. I mean, he kind of looked like an afterthought in the offense. Are they, 1, going to re-sign Jakobi Meyers? And 2, like, what's Brian Thomas Jr.'s role going forward? Because the guy was top 3 in the NFL as a rookie.
I think you have to re-sign Jakobi Meyers given how much he's lifted the offense since coming over. But I do think the Jaguars also need Brian Thomas Jr. because teams respect his speed. Teams respect his verticality in the offense. It's sort of like, again, if we're using the Buccaneers comparison, since Liam Cohen was over there, it's like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin a little bit, where Jacoby Myers is operating in the Chris Godwin role of the offense, but Chris Godwin isn't as effective when Chris Godwin is the only receiver on the field. You need somebody like Mike Evans on the outside to take the top off the defense, to be this explosive threat on the outside of the field, because we've seen this offense get packed in by teams knowing that they only have threats in the middle of the field and somebody who really can't win on the outside. That's what Brian Thomas Jr. does. And if you get rid of Brian Thomas Jr. this offseason, you're putting a lot of pressure on Travis Hunter to come back from that LCL surgery. And, who knows what's going to happen when he comes back? He might not be instantly 100%. So I think they need Jacoby Myers to re-sign. I think they are going to re-sign Jacoby Myers, but they need Brian Thomas Jr. in this offense.
Yeah, I think he probably ends up closer to a Jameson Williams type of career, where he'll go off every once in a while, but not a consistent factor in the offense. I mean, he's just too inconsistent. His drop rate's 17.9% this year. 17.9%. That's insane.
Oh my gosh.
You can't be that consistent. And again, this was on his LSU tape. Like, he was a freak athlete. Why did he drop to it? His ball skills were suspect on his LSU tape. He didn't even start to his junior year at LSU. So there were reasons why. And I think you're seeing him far more this year. So I hope there's a bounce back. Obviously the hope is that he can recapture some of the magic he had as a rookie. But I always think he was always going to end up closer to a Jameson Williams rather than a Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, true alpha number one. I just don't think that's necessarily his skill set in terms of just the ball skills. I don't think he's there.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a little bit more volatile.
Yeah,
but that's fine, because when you look at this team, when you look at the Jaguars, they need his volatility in a good way. They need his explosiveness. Now with Jacoby Myers being if you have like a band, Jacoby Myers is the metronome. He keeps the offense on beat. He keeps everybody on schedule. Brian Thomas Jr. is the freestyle, guitar. He's a solo guitarist.
There you go.
He's going to play his own thing, but as long as he's still on beat, everything's perfectly fine.
Yeah, when you get to the guitar solo, you're like, that was sick. But if the whole song's guitar solo, it's going to go in crazy ways that you don't want it to go.
Yeah.
Some notable injuries, though, from this game. Parker Washington, Walker Little, Trayvon Walker, and Andrew Wingert, all DNPs at practice yesterday for the Jaguars. On the flip side, Sauce Gardner and Josh Downs, DNPs. I think most of those guys look unlikely to play at this point. So some big injuries to both sides.
Yeah, it's going to be whoever can get an impact play from those guys. I think Wyatt Milam started at right guard, I think, when Makari was out, and then Cole Van Lannon moved to left tackle. Cole Van Lannon, low-key, has been super important for this Jaguars team. He has played at left guard, left tackle, right guard, and right tackle at some point in this season. Truly, when you look for a definition of swing tackle, Cole Van Lannon is there, because he's played every position outside of center in this offense. So they're going to need some big plays. And then I think Josh Hines-Allen has wrecked the Colts almost his entire career, but especially since Bernard Raymond has came in at left tackle. And I think he specifically gives Bernard Raymond problems because he wins with power. He wins with power and technique. And I think Raymond sort of struggles against power. You saw that against the Texans. So if Josh Hines-Allen takes over this game, I'm a little worried from the Colts' perspective. They have to find a way to game plan Josh Hines-Allen out of this game.
Yeah, I think we're both taking Jags, not breaking any ground there. I don't think the streak of 11 straight losses now ends this time around. And I do think it comes down to, if you don't have Sauce, you don't have Josh Downs. Downs is your third down guy offensively. He's the one you rely on that side of the ball. And then Sauce is just there's a reason he moved heaven and earth for him, is because cornerbacks outside of Shavarius Ward are just not great at this point in Indy. So, I'm taking the Jags.
I like the Jags in this one. Without Sauce last week, Mooney Ward traveled with Nico Collins. Does Mooney Ward travel? And if he does, who is he traveling with? Because you're leaving Brian Thomas Jr. one-on-one, or you're leaving the hottest receiver in the NFL lately, Jacoby Myers, in one-on-one situations. So I'm curious how they play against this Jaguars team, because like they have so many things that they can throw at you. And I think it's just going to be a really fun matchup between Liam Cohen and Lou Anarumo.
All right, let's get to Steelers at Ravens, the game with the biggest playoff implications in the NFL, because they're both 6-6, and they play each other twice over the next few weeks. Ravens are 5.5-point favorites. 43.5 points is the over-under here. And the odds for each, the Ravens, if they win, 77% chance of making the playoffs. With a loss, 28% chance. Huge, massive. Steelers, on the flip side, 67% chance if they win, 18% chance if they lose. So basically, this game, I don't want to say it decides the North, but it is a big swing for both, depending on whether they win or they lose.
Which is why it's this week's Anxiety Bowl, because holy hell, man, this cannot be a bad game for either offense. I was watching the Steelers offensive tape against the Bills the other day. That was the most miserable offensive output I think I've seen on tape this season. And I've seen a lot of bad offenses. It just felt like the Steelers weren't even trying. There were points where Aaron Rodgers is missing guys open on mesh to force the ball to DK Metcalf. He's not taking shots downfield. Because he broke his wrist, you couldn't put him under center, so they were trying to run pistol runs, and that just wasn't working. It's just awful. It's just horrendous football right now for the Steelers. But on the other side, the Ravens, I think Lamar is still hurt. I really do think Lamar is still hurt. When you look at how he's playing, according to True Media, Lamar Jackson this year has his lowest design run rate and the lowest scrambles of his career. That feels like a problem because of how bad this interior offensive line has been. It's a problem if Lamar's not scrambling or able to create, because you can't mitigate that. A lot of the Ravens offense with Daniel Falele, with Andrew Voorhees was built around, Lamar will fix the problem. But if Lamar is hurt with a toe injury, with a knee injury, with a hamstring injury that still plagues him, there's no way he can do that by himself. So I wonder if this game is hey, we saw the Bills run for 250 yards. Let's go try and do that.
Yeah, I think that's the Ravens' path to success, but I don't. 5.5 is crazy to me. This feels like a 3-point game, however it goes. The Ravens just flat out haven't been that. Like, we thought, they'd climb back into it because they would be the team we saw, or the team early in the season that we all expected. The team that was on the precipice of a Super Bowl last year. If Mark Andrews doesn't drop that ball, like, they were probably the best team in the AFC at that point. They're not. Like, we thought they'd crawl back into it because of that. No, they crawl back into it because the rest of the AFC North is a disaster. Is why they're back in this. So I do think that this is a tight one. I think the Steelers have kind of had the Ravens number of late. 8 of the last 11 matchups, the Steelers have won, which is crazy because over that span, it's like the Ravens have been the much, much better football team for the vast majority of that time, but the Steelers still find a way to get them. So I don't know. I hate this game. Like I said, Anxiety Bowl, it gives me anxiety too. These teams have anxiety. I do too, just like thinking about this one.
If Derek Harmon doesn't play, this Steelers run defense is awful.
It's so bad. Without
Derek Harmon, and I think Derek Harmon's playing essentially nose for them because Keanu Benton can't play nose. Yaya Black also can't play nose. So Derek Harmon has to be the nose tackle in this defense, and he's been really good at it. He's been incredibly underrated, having a strong rookie season. But when he's not on the field, the Steelers' run defense goes into the tank. It's horrendous. And I think part of it is because Keanu Benton is more of a one-gap player than a two-gap player. So you have to line him up in the gap that he is going after and tell him just to run forward. The issue with that is because they're in a 3-4 base, they try and play two-gap. They want to two-gap everything. but Keanu Benton can't two gap. So that means Patrick Queen is having to fill in wherever Keanu Benton's messing up. And that allows for all the cutbacks that you saw the Bills have. And again, the Bills ran at the right side of the ball, like for almost half their plays, because they knew somebody wouldn't set the edge and then Joey Porter Jr. wouldn't contain. Like that, if you're just going to give opposing offenses your game plan and say run at this side, it's going to be really hard to win. So I don't know if I want to pick this game, but I do know whoever loses this one, I'm ready to put to bed. I'm ready to put their season to bed.
To go back to Keanu Benton for just a second, he's another one of those that I've talked about a few times. Those guys where we spend all spring talking about scheme fits and like how they fit in. And if you watched Keanu Benton at Wisconsin, you saw that he was a one gap player. Like that was his bread and butter, was penetrating. And then he goes to a scheme where it's like, like NFL teams, sometimes they get it wrong too. He's a good player, but he is not a great fit for their defense, especially in the running game. So yeah. Can I just not pick this one? I'll pick the Steelers.
I don't know if I'm comfortable picking the Steelers in this one. I don't know if I'm comfortable picking the Ravens in this one. I just know it's going to be something weird is going to happen in this game. And the Ravens have turned the ball over in weird ways lately. That feels like it also plays into the Steelers' hand.
Call your shot, pick a tie. I feel like once a year we should do a call our shot and pick a tie. And if we get it, like their Cash App there should be a bonus for us. I think that's.
I'll pick a tie in this one.
We'll negotiate into our Cash App contract for next year. The tie bonus. You automatically win it all. All right, next game. Bengals at Bills. Bills 5.5 point favorites. 53.5 points is the over under. But so to note, there is likely snow in the forecast here in Buffalo. We'll see if that plays a factor, but it's about that time of year.
So this game reminds me a lot of the game the Bills and the Bengals played in the playoffs, where it was snowing.
Yes.
And everybody thought the Bills were going to win. And then the Bengals ran for like 190 yards or something. They ran all over Buffalo in that game. But it feels like that's sort of skewed. If it snows, it skews in Buffalo's favor because the Bills don't want to throw the football. It's fine for Josh Allen to not throw for 350 yards because that's not how this offense is built. It's built through running the football and just mashing teams' face in. And despite how well I think the Bengals defense played on Thanksgiving, it was a Herculean performance from Myles Murphy. He was running down Derrick Henry, batting passes. Like he was truly the first round pick that they expected him to be. I just feel like this game is going to be against a much different, much angrier offensive line. So I feel sort of like the Bills might run for 300 yards. They might run for 300 yards in this game. It's snowing. It's going to be ugly. This plays into the Bills' favor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It certainly does because this season against under center runs, the Bengals have allowed the most yards in the NFL. 1,122 yards. They've been far and away the worst defense against those under center rush concepts. Flip side, the Bills have the most yards in the NFL on under center runs this year and the most touchdowns, 1,369, 18 touchdowns. Like you said, they want to mash. You don't have Trey Hendrickson coming back for this game yet. I don't see the Bengals suddenly in snow where you don't have your footing figuring out, hey, this is now when we can stop the run. I don't see it happening. So I actually like the Bills -5.5 because I think everything sets up well for them in this game. The matchups that they are now, the Bengals can match. I think we could see the game go over even if, it is a run heavy game and they are controlling the clock, but I don't ever see the Bengals really having enough to make a critical stop in this game.
If there's any spin for the Bengals I have in this one, is T. Higgins is going to be back. And that is a unique problem for the Bills because you can't just, like against the Steelers, Christian Benford traveled with DK Metcalf. He has traveled with number one receivers. You don't really want to leave Tre'Davious White or Maxwell Hairston alone against T. Higgins. So I feel like they're going to play a lot more zone. I feel like Joe Burrow was rusty in the first part of the Thanksgiving game. He really turned it up real quickly. So I think the Bengals can match them score for score, but it's really hard. It's really hard to do that when the opposing team is just going to bleed 5 minutes off the clock or 7 minutes off the clock by just running the football at you, and that leaves you with limited time. So I think the Bills win. I do think if there's anything I'd bet on this game, I do think it's the over, but I do like the Bills in this one.
I do think it's interesting, though. The Bengals are the third most efficient running game in the NFL this season in terms of EPA per rush. Now, they've run the ball the second fewest times of anyone in the NFL. They don't care about the running game. But I think they are interestingly capable of doing so. So maybe we will get a shootout in the snow, which would be very cool to see. But like I said, I like the Bills in this one. Let's get to Broncos at Raiders. Don't have to say long, but we'll get to it. 7.5 point favorites. The Broncos are 40.5 points is the over under in this one.
Yeah, the Broncos are going to win this game, but I'm a little concerned about their run game, like especially with J.K. Dobbins out. I am really concerned about their run game. That's despite having a very good offensive line. So this season, J.K. Dobbins is at plus 1.1 rush yards over expected. That's really good. R.J. Harvey's at negative 0.5 and Jaleel McLaughlin's at negative 1.1. That's really bad. And I think that the biggest differentiator between Dobbins and the other two running backs in this on the Broncos is vision. It's R.J. Harvey's a rookie. Against the Commanders, he had a perfectly blocked duo run that he bounced to the outside. It's like he doesn't trust the hole that's there. And then Jaleel McLaughlin's more of a third down, like change of pace back. But they need J.K. Dobbins' vision and the ability to finish runs. J.K. Dobbins is tied with Christian McCaffrey for most runs of 10-plus yards this season. Like, that's a stat that I did not expect to see. And I think that without Dobbins on the field, the run game loses a little bit more bite. And so it puts a lot more onus on Bo Nix to go win the game, which I don't know if I trust him to win games yet right now. So I want to see if this run game can really start to find an uptick, but this might not be the game for it because the Raiders have been pretty good against the run.
Yeah, one of the most difficult things, and I think the biggest area where the NFL struggles in evaluating running backs is just that. It is vision. And it's hard. It's hard to know who is going to translate well to the NFL because it's very nuanced. And truly can be scheme dependent. There are some guys who are good gap scheme runners who can't run outside zone for the life of them, right? It is not the same for every concept. But when you watch J.K. Dobbins, I don't think people appreciate how good he is. And it's crazy. They drafted a running back in the second round, and they massively upgraded a running back by signing a guy for like $2.5 million. And now he's out with a Liz Frank injury, probably won't be back for the regular season, could come back for the playoffs. But when you watch him run, you're like, okay, that's what it's supposed to look like. That is what the pacing, the vision, setting up blocks, it's all there with Dobbins. On the flip side, though, when you have a guy who only started playing running back in college in R.J. Harvey, who played lower level of competition at UCF, it hasn't hit right away. And it's not to say you can't develop at it, but usually the ones who are very good at it, you see it from them very early on in their career. So it is a little worrisome right now. I mean, he's a heck of an athlete, still going to be productive at the NFL level, but that is where he is really missing. And it's been since day one. I mean, you saw that stuff in the preseason that was getting talked about.
Yeah, and I think that's always, like you said, that's always the one thing that translates late for running backs in the NFL, which is why a lot of teams don't draft running backs early. The vision is the thing that comes last because the game is operating at such a higher speed than it was in college. So this isn't like RJ Harvey sucks. It's going to take some time. And you can see and you can tell that Sean Payton was not really trusting him with a lot of those between the tackle runs. They were using him more as a receiver where you didn't have to use a lot of that vision, just get him in space and see what happens. So I'm curious how the run game works out in this one or moving forward for the Broncos, but I do think they win. I think they win by a lot. Geno Smith to this point in the season has been hit the fourth most of any quarterback I don't know how he is going to survive another game against the Broncos.
Yeah, this one, the Broncos should cover this. Like they should. If you are a Super Bowl team, you better kick this Raiders team ass right now. Even if it's on the road. I don't care. You should. All right, let's move on to Titans at Browns. Browns 3.5-point favorites. And this is the lowest number. I need to do some research on this while we talk about this. I can't remember a lower number in recent memory. 33.5 is the over. Now, maybe I'm guessing, I think maybe the COVID game where we had, who is it for the Broncos? Who was the wide receiver that had to play quarterback? Yes, when Hinton had to play, that probably was lower. There's maybe some like really bad weather games that have been lower at game time. I can't remember one this low on just a, hey, no, these teams are just that bad offensively.
On the other hand, this is the rookie QB discourse bowl. This is going to be so much discourse between Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. That was the debate of draft season last year. Myles Garrett might set the sack record in this one. That's what you're really here for. He is I believe he's at 19 right now. Sack record's 22.5. And I don't know if you've seen the Titans offensive line. Yeah, it's just not great. Not great right now. He's at 19 sacks. He needs 22.5. He needs 22.5 to get to the record. He needs 23 to break the record. That's a 4-sack game, which he has done before this season. Cool. I don't know if we can. I don't know if Cash App allows this one because I thought about it. I think Myles breaks the record in this game. I think he breaks the record in this game.
I wonder what's he's going to have a line at some point, and it's probably going to be like 1.5 because that's just where he's at right now. And even if it is, I would take the over in a heartbeat. I do think this is setting up. I'll say that you trash their offensive line, rightfully so. Peter Skoronski is playing at like a Pro Bowl level. He's good. The rest, Dan Moore, who they signed, Dan Moore's given up 8 sacks again. He signed the guy who gave up the most sacks in the NFL, and lo and behold, he's given up a lot of sacks again. Crazy how that works out. I don't think that's going to end well for his health.
Yeah, I think JC Latham feels like he's playing out of position. It just feels like he's just a tick slow. Like when he gets his hands on you, he's really good, but the problem is when he gets his hands on you. Like it feels like he's playing out of position at right tackle. I think if you move him to guard, you might have a little bit more of a future there. But then if you move him to guard, you're potentially needing quality starters at left and right tackle going into Cam Ward's second season. Not great at all. But I do think this game is going to be one where outside of Myles Garrett, you're looking at the young guys. Ward, Gunnar Helm has played really well for the Titans as of late. Mason Graham has really turned it on for the Browns lately. Carson Schlesinger has still been one of the most impressive rookies this season, offense or defense. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Shedeur Sanders. You're going to be looking at Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson. I think Harold Fannin has been really awesome for this team. So it's going to be fun to look at the young guys. But, of course, the story in this one is, can Myles Garrett get to 23 sacks? I think he can in this game.
Oh, I asked Grok to find me the 10 lowest over-unders of the past decade to see where it fits in. We'll once it spits out an answer. It said there was a 28.5 though. It hasn't shown me what the game was yet, but there was a 28.5.
Yeah, I looked it up, and in 2024, the Patriots Jets had a 28.5 point total. And the game finished with 20 points, so it went under.
What week was that? Was that a week where Rodgers had already mailed it in?
It was January of 2024, January 7th.
Okay, so 2 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
So when it was Zach Wilson.
This was Zach Wilson against probably it wasn't Zappy. I don't think it was Mac either. Let me check.
Let's look up the box score for that one. That's going to be a treat. Was there weather too? Because I feel like to get to that, it almost has to be weather. But
it looks like it was Bailey Zappi. He led the game with 88 pass yards.
It wasn't Zach Wilson. Do you want to know who the quarterback was for the Jets in that game that ended up getting the win? The Jets.
Was it Mike White?
No, the Jets won 17-3. Starting quarterback Trevor Siemian.
Oh,
He went 8 of 20 for 70 yards, and they
that's a
won the
treat.
game.
That one had to be a treat. I can't believe I can't remember that one. Probably because there was other meaningful football going on during that same week. Whew. All right, I'll get some other low totals when this one spits out an answer for me. But we're going to take a quick break. After that, get to the rest of the Week 14 slate.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
All right, let's get to Rams at Cardinals. Rams 8.5-point favorites on the road. 48.5 points is the over/under in this one.
It feels like this game is going to be a get-right game for the Rams. It feels like they sort of need to get some good momentum back going. And even in that loss to the Panthers, they were good offensively. It just took a pick six, a bad pick six in the rain. And even then their success rate was they're still really high. They were still able to move the football. So I think in this game, they're going to kind of take it to the Cardinals. I think they have to. It's what Super Bowl teams do. But I am curious if the Cardinals can keep this one competitive. Jacoby Brissett has not really been a winning quarterback, but he's kept the games close. He's kept them competitive. So I wonder if this is a game where sort of the wheels fall off on the backup QB.
See, I am taking a different opinion on this. I think this is the Cardinals team we thought we were going to see all season long. Now, and I think 8.5 is way too much considering those facts. The last 2 weeks, they have taken 2 playoff teams, the Bucs and the Jags. Jags to overtime. Bucs, they only lost by 3. They have been competitive with 2 playoff teams. I think the passing offense, when Marvin Harrison Jr. out there, has a lot of options. And I think is uniquely, when you have a lot of options against this Rams secondary, I think they'll be able to move the football. I just think 8.5 is way too much on the road, given what this Cardinals team has looked like the past couple of games. And not to say that the Rams aren't going to win. I think they will. And I think they're going to put up a good amount of points. And I like the over in this one as well. But again, if Marvin Harrison Jr. plays, I think this is closer to the team we always thought we were going to get from the Cardinals than what their record shows right now.
Yeah, I feel like this Cardinals team, they're setting up for what they want to be in 2026, which is perfectly fine. What kind of quarterback you need for this offense to be successful. Defensively, I still they're really talented. I think they can give the Rams some problems, but I worry about the backup QB luster starting to wear off a little bit.
All right, let's get to Seahawks at Falcons. Seahawks 7-point favorites on the road. 44.5 points is the over/under. I'm just going to say it. I love the under in this one. Drake London may not be playing yet again. Still hasn't practiced. Doubt they would try to rush him back for what is now a meaningless game here in December for the Atlanta Falcons.
I'm actually really curious how the Seahawks pass pro protects Sam Darnold against a very, very aggressive Falcons defense. Something that popped up in the Vikings game is their ability to pick up protections, their ability to pick up blitzes. And Sam Darnold's play against the blitz isn't exactly what you hope to see out of a playoff Super Bowl caliber team. But this is not a team in the Falcons that you want to mess around with their pass protections against. I think they have done a really good job at mixing up their pressures, identifying who's blitzing, who's not. I just think the Falcons do a really good job with Jeff Ulbrich of creating pressures and causing havoc. So I'm curious how the Seahawks pick those up. I think their blitz protection plans have got to be a little better. They asked Sam Darnold to throw hot a lot. He's not really a hot thrower. I think that requires you need a little more max protection and then just throw it downfield, just be aggressive. But again, you're sort of hoping for the Seahawks run game to start to come along, and it just feels like it's just not going to happen this year. It feels like their run game is just not going to be what we thought it would be, especially coming out of the preseason. It's just not going to be what we thought it was going to be this season, which is going to seriously limit their upside going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think one of the, I don't say underrated storylines, but their O-line still kind of bad on the interior. Like Gray's Abel has been an upgrade. He'll be fine. But center, right guard, I think are big issues for this football team. Like you said, they're least susceptible to blitzes. But on the flip side, I really like Seahawks in this one because they not only have the best run defense in the NFL, they, in terms of EPA per rush, have the best run defense in the NFL in years. I'm going back through. It's been since 2020. This is the best run defense in terms of EPA per rush. Like no one gets the better of the Seahawks team on the ground. So that's your only option right now if you're Atlanta. So I think this one goes way under the 44.5 number.
Is it time to start asking if this Seahawks defense is the most talented defense Mike McDonald's ever coached? Like from top to bottom, I think that the Ravens defense and Mike McDonald probably had the better linebackers with like Roquan Smith at his athletic peak, Patrick Queen. I think they might have better linebackers, but everywhere else, just this defensive line is so good. And so they're so deep. They have such depth at that spot where like DeMarcus Lawrence is sort of a rotational guy, and he's been incredible in his role. You have Boye Mafe and Derek Hall caving in edges. Mike Morris coming in and being versatile chip. Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy being, I would say they're the best defensive tackle duo in the NFL this year. Like they have just, and I want to shout out Byron Murphy because they do so much sacrifice plays in this defense. They eat so many double teams. And not only do they eat double teams, they make plays off of double teams. That's what you want out of an NFL. That's what you want out of any defense. You want your defensive tackles to sacrifice a little bit, but also they can make plays in the run game. They cause havoc as pressure guys. They're really good as like thumpers on like the loops and the pass rush games they play. And then Leonard Williams can drop into coverage. We've seen the athleticism pop up. I do think this might be the most talented defense Mike McDonald has had since being in the NFL.
Yeah, I want to go back to Byron Murphy for just a second because he gets lost in the shuffle, I feel like. He leads all DTs in sacks this year in the NFL. He leads all DTs in sacks. He's been awesome. He's fifth in pressures. The guy is in year two taking a massive step forward. And yeah, that's easily the best DT duo in the NFL. And that's where your run defense starts. Those two being as dominant as they are. Basically, then every other guy's job is made easier when you get a firm line of scrimmage on the interior every single play. I found the next lowest closing over under. Grok was not helpful at all. Thought for 8 minutes, and I asked for 10 games. He gave me 2. But apparently, the Patriots also played an over under in 2023 that was 30 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That game ended up going over. But that's what it gave me too. I wonder who was in that one. December 7th, 2023. Striker, if you want to look that one up and give us a little review of that game after we go to Saints at Buccaneers. Bucks 8.5-point favorites. 42.5 points is the over-under on this one. Likely some rain in the forecast. And while I was doing some research on this game, I came across this. The Saints haven't scored more than 21 points in the game all season long. That would be the 4th lowest high point output in the Super Bowl era if it continues. And the worst since 1992. No one's ever gone below 23 in the 2000s. That is how just incapable of high-end output the Saints offense has been this year.
Well, it's not like their head coach is the play caller or anything, you got to give them a little grace. But I do think that this game is going to be really instructive for the Bucs. Their defense needs a big game. They need to get some of their swagger back on the defensive side of the ball. It has been rough for them lately. They've given up a lot of big plays through the air. And it feels sort of like Tyler Shuck has sort of settled in. I'm not saying like he's going to be their starter for years to come. Like I'm not saying he's going to be the future there, but he looks competent. He looks like a competent player, like somebody you can, somebody you can be like a bridge to your next guy if you want another guy. But I don't know, man. I feel like the Bucs they need a win in this one.
They do. They need a blowout win. They need the defense to look good. And yeah, like I said on the Tuesday show, rewatching Tyler Shuck this season, I came away more impressed with Shuck, less impressed with Kellen Moore. And most plays, I'm just like, I don't really know. I don't. There's no offense waiting to be untapped by an elite quarterback. Like if you put Patrick Mahomes there, if you put someone else, there's just no high-end passing game ready to be hit if you didn't have a rookie quarterback. I think Shuck has his warts, and we talked about that on Tuesday as well. But given the hand he's dealt, I think he is at least kept his head above water, at least not gone in the tank, at least not made like a lot of boneheaded plays that you would expect from a rookie. Because he doesn't have a running game. They have literally the worst under center running game. I did a lot of under center running stats this week because I thought it was very interesting. The worst in the NFL, 355 yards on 117 carries under center for the Saints. That's impossibly bad. And this is the guy that had a 2,000-yard rusher a season ago. Life gets difficult in the NFL when you don't have talent.
And they had 2 first-round picks on the offensive line, 2 high first-round picks at both tackle spots.
They had 4 at one point.
They did have 4, and you still weren't able to run the football. They're still not a good team when it comes to running the football. What does he do? What does Kellen Moore do at this point? And again, I feel like this should be a one-and-done situation. Yeah. But with Mickey Loomis still as the GM, I don't know if that's going to get done. But I am curious, like, can you throw the ball and make this Bucs game uncomfortable? Because the Bucs, like I said, giving up a lot of big plays on the defense side of the ball, especially through the air. And I'm just curious if the Bucs can really like buckle down going into this final playoff push, because they're not inspiring a lot of confidence.
Well, I hope for their sake, and just as a casual fan who roots for dumb stuff like this, that they hold them to 21 points or under. That's all I hope in this one. That's all we're going to be rooting for in Saints games going forward. All right, next game.
I do have an update for you.
Oh, we got it. Okay.
2023, Patriots 21, Steelers 18. It was our good friend Bailey Zappi still at quarterback.
Oh, Zappi just got the unders, man.
Against Mitch Trubisky. Bailey Zappi had 3 touchdown passes in the game. And the leading receiver in the game was Juju Smith-Schuster in a revenge game against the Steelers. I honestly forgot he was on the Patriots.
Wow. How many receiving yards did Juju have in that game?
He had 90.
Dude, some of those late season meaningless games, they go in one ear and out the other. But looking back, I
just saw the receiving stats for the Steelers. Deontay Johnson led the team in receiving yards. George Pickens led the team in catches. He had 5 catches for 19 yards.
We didn't appreciate a receiving room that was Deontay Johnson and George Pickens enough. But Mike Tomlin, he deserves some credit just for that not turning into a literal disaster, because it very easily could have been, considering how both those guys' careers have gone. Whew. All right, let's get to Commanders at Vikings. Vikings 1.5-point favorites. Not sure how. 42.5 points is the over/under. Is 9 back? You wrote 9 back here. Is 9 back this week, or is it Brosmer?
I think it's gonna be JJ. I think he cleared protocol. I think is the last thing that I saw. It's incredible how bad Max Brosmer had to play for JJ McCarthy to clear protocol instantly. Like 1 week after getting
cleared at halftime.
He was like, look, man, they were like, look, man, you can't be much worse than that guy. But this game, I don't know, man. This might be real ugly. This feels like a stoppable force versus a movable object, where like the Vikings have the talent offensively to make something happen in this game, but I don't think they have the quarterback to make something happen. Whereas the Commanders, their defense is awful. So I do kind of feel like the Commanders could pull the upset. But again, Brian Flores and this defense has really played their ass off lately. They have really given a lot of teams problems. They started to sort of shore up their defense. I think Jalen Redmond has played really well. Eric Wilson has played really well. But Dallas Turner is really starting to turn a corner. At least one of those first-round picks has got to pan out. And Dallas Turner is starting to turn the corner. So I think the Vikings win, but it's going to be real ugly.
Yeah, I think you have to, if McCarthy, you have to rush him back for this game. This is a defense that he should have some success against. So it's like, got to get him for this game to showcase what he has. But this game is zero intrigue for me, truly, at this point. But it is one of my locks. I love Marcus Mariota under 211.5. You're going up against top 5 passing defense in the NFL in terms of yards per game. And I just think the game script's going to be such that they're probably not going to have to stop running. They're probably going to be run heavy. And it's probably going to be close to the end to where you're not going to need him to drop back and pass. And there's also a chance that Jaden Daniels plays. And then if you get Mariota to come in late for maybe kneel downs or a series or just a couple plays, because I think that's all you need to qualify for the bet, then you can cash that immediately. So easily one of my favorite bets this week. Let's get to Dolphins at Jets. Dolphins 3-point favorites on the road, over under a 41.5 for this one.
The most intriguing thing about this game is that the Jets are wearing the Gotham City uniforms. I'm very excited for the Gotham City uniforms. And again, would Batman be I don't think Batman would be a Jets fan. I feel like he's sort of old money-ish. So I feel like he'd be a Giants fan or maybe an Eagles fan. But very quietly, Devon Achane has had one of the best seasons in the NFL as a running back. He's one of only 4 running backs right now with over 1,000 rushing yards. He's second in the NFL in runs of 10+ yards. And it just feels like, again, Mike McDaniel has done such a great job of using him in the run game to create explosives. They're really good at designing Devon Achane runs where they fit his skill set a lot of outside zone, a lot of tosses, get him moving downhill in an instant. I think Patrick Paul and Aaron Brewer play really well as run blockers. So I just want to see Devon Achane in this game, kind of see him cook.
You know who I just want to see? I just want to see Adonai Mitchell.
That's right.
Let's stack some good games for Adonai Mitchell, get his confidence up. And then once Garrett Wilson comes back, you got a real deal 1-2 punch. That's all I really want to see for the Jets. I don't have a take. I think the Dolphins win. I think they probably roll them up. But, yeah, not a lot of intrigue in this one. All right, we'll take a break. After that, going to get to the actual intriguing games. We got Texans, Chiefs, Eagles, Chargers, and Cowboys, Lions coming up next.
Hi.
Novocaine?
Novocaine!
Novocaine is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
You're gonna love this.
Oh, you're strong!
It's wildly entertaining and an absolute blast.
I'm in.
Novocaine, rated R, now streaming on Paramount Plus.
All right, Texans at Chiefs. Chiefs 3.5-point favorites. 41.5 points is the over-under in this one.
The offensive line for the Chiefs might be really banged up. So according to ESPN's Nate Taylor, Josh Simmons is going to IR after having surgery on his wrist. And then during yesterday's practice, Jawan Taylor, Trey Smith also did not practice.
Ooh.
So you're currently missing 3 of your 5 starters. Going to be playing Wanye Morris and Jalen Moore at both your tackle spots against the Houston Texans pass rush, which just made the Bills offense with both backups in the game. Or not even, they didn't have the backups in the game. Both starters in the game look like backups. This is going to be a really grimy, really ugly game. I think you're going to need all the Mahomes scrambles that you can get. Patrick Mahomes, once again, has had a really good year as a scrambler. But I kind of think the Texans can win this one.
I do too, man. I also like the under a lot in this one. 41.5. I think with those injuries along the Chiefs' offensive line, their offense is just going to be a bit of a slog. And the Texans' off defense, they're second in pressure rate this year. And they're bottom 10 in blitz rate, second in pressure rate. That's like the god tier combo that everyone in the NFL is looking for. Texans got it. So against a banged up offensive line, I just don't see it ending well for the Chiefs offense. Now, on the flip side, the Texans can score sub 10 points against anyone, right? Like this is an offense built to go into the tank themselves. So I don't know if they're going to win this one through CJ Stroud, but I think they've had a much better plan of late to at least grind out an ugly one, which is what I think this game's going to be.
I actually do think the Texans offense has started to find their stride lately. The combination of Ed Ingram and Trent Brown on the right side has given them at least a little bit of pop in the run game. And then off of that, I think they've used a lot more play action, a lot more bootleg stuff with CJ Stroud in the game, especially, well, not even with CJ Stroud in the game, but without Stroud, with Davis Mills in the game, I think they've used a lot more boot, a lot more rollouts, try and avoid having the quarterback in the pocket. And I think that's going to really help against this Chiefs defense that you just don't want Chris Jones wrecking the game. But I do think they've sort of found what works for them this season with a lot of boot stuff, a lot of play action, a lot of rollouts. And then again, the young guys are starting to step up. I think Woody Marks has played really well. Jaden Higgins is starting to grow into his role as the number 2 receiver. You get some really fun Jalen Noel situations. So I think they're just finding their identity on that side of the ball. And all you really need is just to if you can get to 17 points, not even 17, if you can get to 14 points with this defense, you're probably good.
If you can get to 14 points, come on, Texans, 14 points. Yeah, I like the Texans, especially 3.5. You can lose by a field goal and still cover. Yeah, I like the Texans a lot.
3.5 feels like I'm not going to say 3.5 feels like a lot, but one of my locks is the Texans plus 3.5. I do think they can make this game grimy. I think they can make this game ugly. But something that is worth watching is every time the Texans have played the Chiefs, Andy Reid has had such a good game plan against their man coverage. They've always been able to shred the man coverage. But I just don't know if this offensive line is going to hold up in the run or passing game.
Chiefs haven't covered 3.5 since October. It's been a while.
Oh my God.
I know. All right, let's get to Eagles at Chargers. Eagles 2.5 point favorites. 41.5 points is the over-under. And this is the Monsters, Inc. game.
I'm so excited for the Monsters, Inc. game. Big Disney fan, love Monsters, Inc. But ESPN has done this a lot for their prime time or like standalone games. And I actually think it's pretty cool. I think it stems from CBS doing the Nickelodeon games, which I also think are awesome. That is one of my hopes one day. I want to call a Nickelodeon game. I think that'd be super cool. But I think the Monsters, Inc. game is going to be really fun. I remember the Jaguars played the Falcons in London, and I think it was a Toy Story game, and Desmond Ridder threw a pick 6 in Andy's room. And I think that is like ingrained into my head as one of my favorite like nondescript Jags memories. But this game, it really sort of depends on if Justin Herbert plays. If Herbert plays, I think the Chargers have a much better shot. But I also think like with Trey Lance in this game, it's going to be grimy. It's going to be nasty. It feels like the Eagles are going to kind of just slog their way into a win.
I want to circle back to the Nickelodeon game. You work for Paramount now, JP. We can get you on the Nickelodeon game. We need to start this.
We should make this happen.
We can make this happen. We're going to make this happen at some point in time. If you definitely want to. I truthfully have never sat down and watched more than 5 seconds. So I flip on, I'm like, oh, that's happening. That's what's going on. Okay, I'm going back. It's just, it's never quite appealed to me. But if you're calling the Nickelodeon game, I'll watch it from start to finish, JP. That's
let's make it happen. I want to call a Nickelodeon game. Paramount. Let's see if we can get something going.
Yeah, this one, it just feels unexciting to me. That's most Eagles games now. I was a little more excited for last Friday, but this one feels like two teams that the season kind of got away from both for different reasons. Chargers because of injuries, Eagles just because I don't think their stars are really stars right now. Like I think AJ Brown, he had that quote a few weeks back. What was it about Saquon Barkley? He said something like, I guess Saquon's lost a step too then, huh?
Yeah, like I remember that. Yeah.
And I unironically was like, yeah, like you kind of both have lost a step. You kind of aren't the same guys we saw last year. And just like truthfully, you flip on the tape and they don't look as good, even when everything is good, even when it should be good, they're not. Father Time catches up to everyone in certain ways. And I don't think they're that good. And then you've had other guys who are disappointed too. Jalen Carter has not been, usually the career progression from guys is like year on year, better. He's probably the worst he's been in his career. And it was like from day one disappointment when he spit on Dak Prescott. He has 2 sacks. He's 50th out of 69 in terms of starting defensive tackles in run stop percentage. He has a 60.8 PFF grade this year. And I know PFF's not the end all be all, but at least in terms of pass rush, they capture that well. And he is not. He has the lowest pass rushing rate of his career right now. So they do not have the guys. I think the only star that I'd say is really playing like a star right now is probably Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Mitchell's ball. Like he's been awesome. No shade there. Like no drop and play from him whatsoever from year 1 to year 2. He's only gotten better. Everyone else is just not playing that well.
And I think it's sort of the symptom of the Super Bowl hangover.
Mm-hmm.
But I think on the defensive line, it's been really intriguing because the defensive tackles are supposed to be the ones that sort of anchor this defense. I think Jordan Davis has played incredible this season. He has grown a lot from year over year. But like you said, Jalen Carter's just sort of missed the consistent impact. And then you had injuries with Nolan Smith. You had to bring back Brandon Graham. And then Jalen Phillips has played well in his trade since coming over from Miami. I think he's been a nice, needed addition. But offensively, I just think the Eagles are sort of going to go into the tank against this Chargers defense that can turn any game into a rock fight.
Yes.
And what they do really well is they make you see coverages and make you see things that aren't actually there. Jesse Minter does such a good job of designing pressures in obvious passing situations where you have to watch out for Dayon Henley. You have to watch out for Derwin James. And with Jalen Hurts already limited as a runner, if they spy with Henley, you're not getting positive yards out of that. So I'm curious how the Eagles are going to keep themselves ahead of the sticks, even without a run game that has been especially potent this season.
Yeah, because the Chargers, they make you earn it through the air. Like they make you earn your scores by completing drives. They don't allow a lot of big plays. They have a lot of second fewest passing yards in the NFL this season, second lowest passer rating. Still a very good pass defense. So I think the Eagles probably win this when it's all said and done, but I think this is an ugly one. I love the under in this.
I think this is an ugly one. I think the Eagles do win. I hope at some point we get like Mike Wazowski's Jalen Hurts. I think that'd be very funny.
All right, let's get to the last game and let's get out of here. Cowboys at Lions. Lions 3-point favorites tonight on Thursday Night Football. 54.5 points is the over-under. And man, I'm not sure I've been this excited for a Thursday Night Football game in a lot. This is a great Thursday Night Football game. So much on the line here in terms of matchups. The playoff implications of this one are unlike anything else in the rest of the NFC. Lions with a win, 55% chance of making the playoffs. With a loss, it drops under 20% chance of making the playoffs. Cowboys with a win, 45% chance of making the playoffs. With a loss, down to 11% chance of making the playoffs. So this game is a massive, massive Thursday Night Football game.
It sort of feels like the Lions' last stand a little bit. This feels like their last shot at not only getting into a good playoff spot, but proving to the NFC that they are still one of the teams to beat. If you want to make a Super Bowl, you have to go through the Lions first. But it also just feels like this is a bad matchup on both sides of the ball for Detroit, especially on defense, where they, again, are one of the league leaders in man coverage rates. But against man coverage, George Pickens is third in the NFL right now in yards per route run. CeeDee Lamb is fifth in the NFL in yards per route run against man coverage. Dak Prescott is a top 12 quarterback in success rate against man coverage. It just feels like for this game to be anything. And Kelvin Shepard has been a fine play caller, but he has been struck with sort of the same problems that Aaron Glenn had, which is you want to play man coverage, but you can't get pressure. It's hard to run with a guy for as long as possible while being in man coverage. But you also can't play zone because you can't get pass rush. And that's the biggest problem with this team. It has been the biggest problem with this team since drafting Aiden Hutchinson. They don't have a quality number two. They don't have a secondary pass rusher. So unless you can really get Aiden Hutchinson to take this game over, unless you can get Aleem McNeil to once again pop as a pass rusher, I just worry a little bit about the Lions really slowing this Cowboys offense down.
Yeah, I love the Cowboys in this one. I don't want to say the Lions are dead in the water, but like you said, the matchups are really bad for the Lions in this one, whether it's that interior of the offensive line of Tristan Colon and Coyote Owasike, who have been just not good. And now Graham Glasgow, Miles Frazier are maybes for this one. If they both play, this could be a different story. But those guys going up against Quinn Williams has been dominant. Like, he will dominate those guys. And on the flip side, you have George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb going up against a team that's played third most man coverage of anyone else in the NFL, which, do you know who 1 and 2 are on this list? It's almost hilarious to see who 1 and 2 are.
Who's 1 and 2?
Giants and the Steelers. It's like, yeah, no wonder your defense sucks. Like, you cannot be those teams with those secondaries. I digress. But going up against CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, that's why I do think DJ Reed's probably your most valuable. If you're going to watch anyone in this game, that's who you want to watch, because that's the matchup. They're probably going to trust him against one of those two guys. And if he can win consistently, and he has in the past, like, he's been a guy who's capable of shutting down some big wide receivers, but he is also a lot, you'll get a lot of penalties. He can be boom or bust in that regard. So I'm very interested. It's a great matchup, but I do think the Cowboys win ultimately.
I think the Cowboys do win. I'm still wondering what the Lions are going to do about all the injuries. Like, I think last season they were able to mitigate it because their offense was incredibly healthy. But in this game, Kirby Joseph will not play. Brock Wright will not play. Shane Zylstra will not play. Those are 2 of your top 3 tight ends, on top of Sam Laporta being on IR. Khalif Raymond's not going to play. Brian Branch is questionable. Coyote Awosika, also questionable. Taylor Decker, questionable. Graham Glasgow, questionable. Penei Sewell, questionable. Amon-Ra St. Brown, questionable. It's the injury regression has now flipped to the other side of the ball, and I don't think the Lions can really recover from injuries to that part of their team. So I think the Cowboys win just because they're not healthy this year. And it sucks that this team just couldn't get healthy.
All right, let's recap our locks for the week, and let's get out of here. JP's got Daniel Jones under 231.5 with that broken fibula. Jacoby Myers over 4.5 receptions. Dak Prescott over 269.5 passing yards here on Thursday night. The Pittsburgh-Baltimore under. The Texans plus 3.5 against the Chiefs, and the Jags plus 1.5 against the Colts. I got the Cardinals plus 8.5 against the Rams, holding the nose there. I got the Texans Chiefs under. I got Marcus Mariota under 211.5 passing yards. I got the Seahawks Falcons under, the Eagles Chargers under. And then Kyle, of course, has the Bears plus 6.5. Kyle Monungai over 44.5. I'm surprised he just didn't take all the Bears overs, just like Caleb Williams over, DJ Moore's over. Just go bet all of them, but down the line. Seahawks -7 and the Eagles -2.5. That was your lock segment, sponsored by Cash App. As you heard me say at the top of the show, new Cash App users can use our code to get free money. Use our code PUSHING. Send $5 to a friend, and within 14 days, you'll get $10 right in your account. Thank you, Cash App. That's our show. We'll be back Sunday night. As always, appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks so much. Until next time, keep pushing.